Hey guys, 12.3 is called The Cold War at Home. And it's going to look at the fact that during the Cold War, not only is there tension around the world, but there's tension right here in the United States because one, the Soviet Union has infiltrated the United States with hundreds of spies. And those spies are sending important information back to the Soviet Union, information that will hurt American interests and cost American lives. But of course, the problem is that in America, no matter what, all American citizens are always protected by their civil rights. And that is a very important element of being an American. So you see at the top of this section, there is a picture of six spies who are all convicted of selling atomic secrets from the United States atomic weapons program to Russia that allow them to develop their first A-bomb and their hydrogen bomb. So this is a big problem. Now, of course, part of the problem is Americans get scared about it. And when people are scared, they don't always act correctly. So let's take a look at some of the sections here of this part of the module. So first, going to dig into One American Story, which is about Tony Khan, whose family has to deal with being, I would say exposed, or certainly they have to deal with what happens to people who get caught in the mess of spying for the Soviet Union. Then there's quite a few important terms there. HUAC and the House Un-American Activities Committee, the Hollywood 10, Blacklist, Alger Hiss, Ethel and Julius Rosenberg, Joseph McCarthy, McCarthyism. So those are all terms you'll look at and define, make sure you understand them. Then you'll watch a short video about this guy. Really important. I mean, Ronald Reagan is a great American. In the 1940s, he's a movie star. He becomes involved in the Screen Actors Guild, commonly known as SAG or SAG. And Screen Actors Guild is looking out for the interests of actors in Hollywood at the time. It's infiltrated by lots of communists. He gets involved there, and it really kind of propels him eventually out of acting into politics. Of course, eventually he'll become a two-term governor of California, and he'll be president of the United States during the 1980s when the Cold War really comes to an end. So this looks at kind of how he gets involved in the beginning of that, when he's still an actor, and how he sees communism eating away in Hollywood. Then you'll dig into the next section, well, the first section, actually, and you'll look at how some of those things happen, how Americans feel, the Loyalty Review Board, how HUAC gets involved, the McCarran Act, and something really important, the Venona Papers. A lot of people don't know anything about the Venona Papers. Everybody knows about McCarthyism to some degree, but the Venona Papers is a program started by the United States Army during World War II, and thousands of documents are captured by them. They're a security agency. And eventually we find out through these thousands of documents that there's hundreds of spies that are in America selling America's secrets or turning them over to the Soviet Union. Eventually, when the Soviet Union falls in 1995, all this stuff becomes public knowledge. But until 1995, most Americans don't know about it. So in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, a lot of people think, oh, you know, that what happened in the 40s and 50s was terrible. It was all for no reason. But the truth is, we have the facts, and there really was a reason. There really were communists who were undermining the American government. So we'll look at that, and you'll look at a political cartoon and analyze a couple of questions about that. Because remember, no matter what people do, they always have the right to a fair trial, and they have the right to know who is speaking against them. These are basic fundamental American rights. And you kind of see here in the political cartoon that oftentimes people's rights are getting trampled. Whether they're guilty or not, everybody deserves a fair trial. Then you'll look and learn a little bit about the Venona Project and information that we have from that project about the guilt of the Rosenbergs. People felt a lot of different ways about the Rosenbergs at the time, and some of the secret information could not be used in the trial. But we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Rosenbergs were guilty of espionage against their country. And then you'll dig into that section. Alger Hiss, who was part of the president's, FDR's inner circle. This guy was a communist spy. So you'll dig in a little bit about Alger Hiss and the Rosenbergs. And then as we get ready to get into the last section, there's a great question there. It kind of looks at the influence of television and media during that time. Remember, guys, it wasn't until the latter 1950s when most Americans even had televisions in their homes. We're so used to it today. The average American has a couple of televisions in their home today, and they have computer screens, and they have their cell phones. But up until the 1950s, nobody had televisions in their homes. And so we see that after the 1950s, images on television screens start affecting the way people think and behave. And this is a very important concept to understand. It's hard to imagine people today getting elected who maybe had some of the situations that the great President FDR had. He was in a wheelchair. Hard to imagine that the influence of television today would allow, unfortunately, something like that to happen. So next, you'll watch a short video by the Bill of Rights Institute, The Rise and Fall of Joe McCarthy. And I think it's a really good video. It shows you some of the background of him. But once again, it shows the fact that, no matter what, even if he was right about some of these people, remember, everybody deserves a fair trial. And this is the thing that he goes overboard on. And you'll see how when he finally attacks the army, that's going to be it for him. So there's a question about the video. And then lastly, you'll dig into that last heading, which looks at the behavior and the rise and fall of Joseph McCarthy. And then lastly, there's a cause and effect chart that I want you to answer those couple of questions. And then I want you to make sure that you wrap it all up by doing the lesson 3 assessment, and you'll do number 1, number 3, number 4, number 5. So that's our work for this week, guys. So this is the week of the 11th through the 15th of May. Next week, you should have this done by the beginning of the week. You have it ready to turn in. You'll take a mid-chapter test. And then a couple more weeks we'll finish up our look at the Cold War and how things finally end, because we'll see it at the end of the Cold War, who's there? Ronald Reagan. Just like we see Ronald Reagan here, kind of at the beginning of the Cold War too, playing very different roles. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great week. And don't forget, we'll Zoom on Wednesday. And we'll Zoom on Friday. You show up in the Zooms, you're going to get extra credit. And that could be something very helpful to your grade. So hang in there. Keep doing what's right. And I look forward to connecting with you guys a couple of times this week. So take care of yourselves. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.